Hello, welcome back to Conan Exiles, and today we're going to run through the 6 artifacts you need to collect to finish the game. You have to run around various dungeons collecting these artifacts, and once you've got them all together you can combine them into a tool that you use to take off your bracelet and leave the Exiled Lands forever. However, there is a bit of a catch there, but I'll explain that as we go on. So like I said, there are 6 artifacts, and here they are. In no particular order, they are the Diadem of the Giant Kings, the Heart of the Sands, also known as the Scourge Stone. You have the Mask of the Witch Queen, Star of the Champion, Tears of the Two Races, and last but not least, we have the Shining Trapezahedron. Now the first one we're going to look at is Heart of the Sands, but within the game this doesn't exist as a single entity. It's been broken into 3 pieces, so you have to find the 3 pieces and then stick them all together. And I should also add that if you want to figure things out for yourself, I'd recommend going to the Unnamed City and finding the Archivist, who does tell you about all these artefacts and roughly where they can be found. However, in the rest of this video I'll tell you exactly where to go to find all this stuff. So the first artifact we're going to find is one of the Scourge Stone pieces, and this is the Jagged Scourge Stone, and we find that down in Galamond's tomb, which is on the Nube River, and it's a fairly easy location to get to. Here's the tomb, the big square hole in the cliffs there, and inside we're going to find lots of little crocodiles. I say little crocodiles, they're normal sized crocodiles, but there's quite a few of them, and once you get all the way inside you'll find a chamber right at the back of the cave that has a boss crocodile in it. And this boss croc is quite a handful. He's not as bad as some of the other boss crocs you can find on the map, but for a newish player he's still going to be quite a challenge. But what you do is you fight him, kill him off, chop him up, and he drops the Jagged Scourge Stone. But we're not going to do that today, we're going to beat a hasty retreat. The next Scourge Stone piece is in Buccaneer Bay, or more specifically in this camp called Jamila's Liberty, or indeed even in Flotsam, which is just next door to it. So here's the Liberty in front of us. It's quite an elaborate camp, and we're going to take an aerial view so I can show it to you in all its glory. And what we're looking for here is actually 2 named fighters. One is called Gallo the Spear, and the other is Hakir Wave Runner. And these guys could be anywhere in this complex. They could be up here at the top of Jamila's Liberty, or they can even be in one of the little islands down at the bottom. And I've even found Gallo the Spear in Flotsam. But essentially you've got to fight your way through this base until you find one of these guys. Then you kill them and they will drop the Shattered Scourge Stone piece. And this can be quite tough. This is quite a difficult fighting environment. Some of the pirates you'll find here, some of the corsairs, are very difficult, and the 2 named fighters aren't pushovers. There's also lots of Black Panthers, which doesn't help. Now the last Scourge Stone piece is the Broken Scourge Stone, and we find that in a place called the Passage, which is in the heart of these eastern swamps. And it's quite an unpleasant journey getting here. The swamps are very dangerous, full of giant snakes and spiders and sand reapers, but we're going to take a shortcut because there's an obelisk quite nearby. Here we go, and the passage is just round the corner. Now if you've not been here before, it can be easy to get lost, but once you see it, the passage is fairly unmistakable. There it is, you can just see it in the background. It's this huge head, and you have to get in through the mouth. I would recommend doing this in daylight though, it's very easy to get lost at night. Anyhow, we head inside, go down this tunnel, and at the end we find this huge chasm. You can see how the passage continues on the other side. But what you have to do is climb down there and then fight a boss Sand Reaper Queen, who is quite tough. There's lots of little spiders around her which aren't too much of a problem, but the Sand Reaper Queen is a 3-skull boss, so is quite a handful. I'm not going to climb down because my corruption means that I wouldn't have the stamina to climb up again, so that's something to take into account perhaps. A lot of climbing involved in this one, and if you cross this chamber and climb up on the other side, the passage will actually take you into the cold north. It comes out in these hills somewhere around there, I can't remember exactly where. Anyhow, that's the last of the Scourge Stone pieces, So now what we have to do is take them to someone to put them together for us. And that character is someone called Petruzzo the Sandstorm Maniac. And he lives in the Sandswept Ruins, which are just here in the southern desert. Now the area around the Sandswept Ruins are quite dangerous. There's lots of giant scorpions and also these very unpleasant sand beasts, which are very dangerous, but you can avoid them. As long as you take a side route and keep your eyes peeled, you can avoid bumping into anything really. But here's the ruins ahead of us, and as you can see there's a couple of sand beasts lurking outside. You can just see their tails waggling around. However, they are quite easy to sneak past. Anyhow, we duck inside, we find Petruzzo, listen to his story, and give him the Scourge Stone pieces, and he sticks them together for us. So he's a very obliging sort of person, and his story is full of lore. He's quite interesting. Next up is the Mask of the Witch Queen, and for that we have to go back east again, where we find the lost city of Zelhar, and then find the Palace of the Witch Queen. Now the ruined city is quite large, and it's easy to get lost in here if you've not been here before, but you can take a route round the front. What you have to do is go to the harbour, run up the edge, and then you'll see a water-filled tunnel. So run up the tunnel, jump off the end, have a bit of a swim to those stairs, and the entrance to the palace is just here. So just charge in. Now this is quite a safe way of getting into the Palace of the Witch Queen, because the city is patrolled by grey apes and gorillas and large angry birds, who can be quite troublesome if you're not particularly strong. But inside the palace we meet the Witch Queen and her two chums here, these two giants on either side, and you have to fight both of these fellows, but you do it one at a time, so it's not too bad. However, once we start fighting the second guy, we discover the palace is sort of booby-trapped with these laser beams that will do you quite a bit of damage if you get caught in them. So you've got two jobs: avoid getting stomped on by a giant, and avoid getting fried by a light beam. So after killing off the two giants, the Witch Queen herself will come down for a fight. She's also a 3-skull boss, but she's not too bad. You do her in, chop her up, and she will drop the Mask of the Witch Queen, but also Rasma's key, the key to Rasma's quarters. Rasma's key isn't an artifact, but it does lead you to a useful bit of lore. In the prologue of the game, the woman that you see being nailed up on a cross is Rasma, and she has a house in Sepamaru that key will open, and once you get inside there, you can speak to Rasma, and she'll drop some more lore on you. You can also go to the throne and pick up some recipes, so run up to the throne and interact with it, and then you can pick up all this interesting stuff. And that's quite a common feature of these dungeons. Once you've defeated the boss, you can run around and look for tablets and things to interact with to learn some recipes. So the next artifact we're going to look for is Star of the Champion. You find that in the arena, which is just underneath the sinkhole. So there's a few undead hyenas living around here which you have to knock on the head just to clear the way. And then you can see your quarry underneath there. It's that undead dragon, that bony bastard. So we have to get down there and kill him, and again chop him up to get the star. Now there's two ways of getting down there. You can, believe it or not, build yourself an elevator that will take you all the way down there. I'm not going to in this case, because I'll show you the alternative route, and that's to go to the river, which is just around the corner, and find a location called the arena. So here is the arena, and there's a central sewer tunnel, but there are entrances on either side. Inside the tunnel is a very nasty snake, but take one of the side entrances to avoid him. Then you have to run through lots and lots of skeletons and skeletal serpent men till you get to the main arena. So here's the arena floor and the dragon, and once you've killed the dragon, look around for a tablet that will teach you some dragon armour. So now we're off to another ruined city, the ruins of Zulan and the Black Keep, and the artifact we find here is the Tears of the Two Races, but we have to kill a boss called the Kin Scourge, And this is probably the most difficult of the dungeons we've seen so far, in that the environment here is very unpleasant, so you need some form of cold protection. Again, we're going to take a shortcut and take an obelisk using the map room. And there are lots and lots of really nasty skeleton guards. And here's some of the guards I told you about, and there really is quite a lot of them. Now the city's quite large, but it's not massive, and even though it's quite a maze, if you keep going up, you will eventually come to this doorway that leads you inside the Black Keep. And once inside, you've got a similar array of enemies, lots and lots of skeleton guards. So here's some footage I took in an earlier playthrough. But you've got two things you need to do. You have to stay alive, and you have to find this chest, because this chest has got a key in it. And this key will unlock a door to an inner sanctum, where you will find the Kin Scourge. Knock them on the head, get the tears of the two races, and as usual there will be tablets in the same room that you can read to get some more recipes. Now our next boss is fairly feeble in comparison, and his name is the Barrow King, who lives in a barrow on the western side of the map just here. He's fairly easy to get to, there's lots of wights around him, but you're not boxed in like in the Black Keep, so fighting them is fairly straightforward. Just outside the entrance to the barrow is a note, and if you read the note, it will tell you that you need demon blood to actually get inside the barrow. So what you have to do is have some demon blood in your inventory. I don't think you need very much blood, I think one will do. Once inside we meet the Barrow King himself, and despite his looks, this guy is a bit of a pushover really. He will go down fairly easily. And the Barrow King, otherwise known as the King Beneath, will drop you a crown called the Diadem of the Giant Kings. As ever, look around for a little tablet that you can read to get some recipes. So now it's time for our final destination, which is the Volcano and the Well of Skelos. And of all the artefacts, this is probably the most challenging in terms of environment. As you might expect, it's extremely hot inside the volcano, so you'll need some kind of heat protection. And I would recommend going up there either with Silent Legion armour or a legendary shield called the Mistborn. Anyhow, you've got quite a long journey ahead of you getting to the well. Lots of lava to jump over, and dozens of belligerent enemies. But eventually you'll get to the well, at which point you leap into the beam of light in the middle. This takes you to another impressive dungeon, lots of enemies, lots of lava, but eventually you will get to the main man. And this character in the throne is known as the Degenerate, and he summons various spectral chums to come and beat you up. But they are really quite straightforward to take down, frankly. If your character is fairly powerful, these guys aren't going to be a problem at all. So once all the glowing minions are defeated, you can knock the Degenerate on the head, and then take the last of the artefacts, which is a jewel called the Shining Trapezahedron. And again, look around for tablets to read, get lots of lovely recipes. So that's it, we've collected our 6 artefacts. Now all we have to do is bind them together to create a tool that will release us from the Exiled Lands. And to do that we have to go to a location called the Chaos Mouth. And the Chaos Mouth is an old temple on the boundary between the desert and the cold north. So let's take a bird's eye view of the Chaos Mouth, it's quite impressive. And what we want is an altar right on the end there. So if we drop down, we can then open the altar of Chaos Mouth and add our artefacts. And these are automatically crafted into an item called the Keystone. And it's this Keystone that you can use to take off your bracelet and escape the Exiled Lands. However, the catch is that once you escape the Exiled Lands, there's no particular reward. You get a cutscene showing your character walking beyond the ghost wall, but then you're immediately shunted to the beginning of the game. Essentially, leaving the Exiled Lands wipes out all your progress, and you start from scratch again. So we're not going to do that, we're going to stay where we are, thank you very much. So anyway, I hope you found that useful, interesting and entertaining. It's a bit of a shame you don't get a bigger reward for finding all these items, But I suppose it is what it is, isn't it? Anyhow, I hope you'll join me for the next adventure, and until I see you again, I shall say goodbye. Okay then, cheerio.